You ever wonder why most Monster Hunter games give you a sword and shield at the start of the game? Let's find out! Time to learn about Sword and Shield. Press X to perform a down slash, and again to perform a side slash. These two attacks are extraordinarily fast and are part of your bread and butter combos. Pressing X a third time performs the shield combo. Never ever do this. This move is terrible. Not only is it slow as hell, it also knocks other people around if you want to do this in multiplayer. Before we move on, I should highlight the fact that some people will tend to mash SNS combos out. Resist the urge to do this. Mashing is bad in Monhunt in general, but on SNS it is especially bad, because it makes you go into attacks that you do not generally want to do. Practice some discipline, and apply it every single hunt to build a habit. Trust me, it'll be better for you in the long run. Pressing A from idle or mid combo performs the strong side slash, which deals more damage than the base side slash while only being a smidge slower. Press A again for the strong up slash, notable for its more vertical hitbox. Press A one more time to perform the round slash, which is your strongest single hit attack that also nudges you forward a bit. You can perform the round slash at any time mid combo with X and A, or from idle with the special attack button. The strong attacks are great for extending combos past the initial X button combo, while the round slash should not be spammed. Counterintuitively, the end like it has means that unless you're closing out windows with it, it'll be faster to loop your combo from a strong side slash, returning to idle instead. It also moves you forward a bit, which you should take into account. Pressing in a direction and using A will perform the shield bash attack. Pressing A again performs the shield thrust. These two moves are unspeakably bad, partially because, well, if you're using these, you would have been better off with just using the strong side slash and strong up slash instead. And also, like the shield combo attack, they knock your allies around. So unless you like whipping your shield around like you just don't care, have some courtesy and never think about using these. Pressing X and A from idle performs the rush slash, your one gap closer. It really helps when you're trying to initiate a combo when you're just a tiny bit away from the monster, but if you use it at point blank, you'll probably slip off before you want to hit. To use this well, you're gonna have to build a bit of experience to have the intuition of where you want to use it. This isn't something that can be easily conveyed through visuals. What I will say is that if you want to start a combo on SNS, using Rush Slash from closer than you think you need to is generally better than starting it a bit too far away. Rush Slash also grants you super armor for a long time, letting you ignore wind pressure and small hits. Use it to approach any landing monster without getting interrupted. After a Rush Slash or a roll, you can press X to perform a normal up slash, and pressing X after this will move back into the standard X combo with down slash. This whole Rush Slash sequence forms the basis of your bread and butter combo, which I'll go over later. Next up, let's talk about the second part of Sword and Shield, the shield. You can press and hold R to guard. I'm not going to go over the finer details of guarding. You can check the Lance and Gunlance guides for that. But all you need to know is that guarding attacks is a great last resort if you can't do anything else to avoid damage. Better to only eat a bit of damage rather than eating dirt, right? Just don't try to block everything. You're light on your feet as SNS, so act like it. During a guard, you can press A to perform a guard slash, which I'm mentioning only for the sake of complete coverage, but isn't worth using ever. Instead, use X to perform the up slash while exiting guard, which is also part of your bread and butter combo, but is somewhat underused by the SNS community at large. It's free damage as a combo starter, so fitting it in when you don't need to use Rush Slash is a great idea. Pressing Y from guard also lets you use the currently selected item in the item bar, so you don't have to sheave before using items. It's great for using things such as flash bombs, sonic bombs, whetstones, potions, or even traps. Pressing back an A mid-combo, or from guard if you're insane, results in the back step. You'll leap backwards while charging up an attack. Fun fact, this hop does have iframes. Charge it up by holding down the A button, and once charged, either release A or hold it long enough to leap forward again, while attacking with both shield and sword. Afterwards, pressing X or A goes into up slash. The charge slash is kinda awkward to use. The intended use is supposed to be as a combo extender, but is worse than doing your combo a more normal way. To give it a bit of credit, you can use this to reorient yourself if you're slipping off the monster, or if parts of your combos whiff, but I wouldn't use it outside of down windows. At least it also gives you super armor. Oh, and not charging this attack results in the Rush Slash. You can also just use the step back by pressing back and X or A as you finish the step back to link into an up slash. Now for the various ledge-based attacks. Press X midair for a simple jump slash. Performing a rush slash off of a ledge leads to a leaping jump slash, which can link into a jump slash. Performing a rush slash into a ledge performs a rising jump slash, which also links to a jump slash. Before we move into S&S strategy, we should probably quickly highlight sword oils. These are items exclusive to generations. You can apply these to your sword, granting it, and only it, various effects for 2 minutes. There isn't any visual indicator that an oil has worn off other than staring at your sword mid-hunt, but most of the time you don't need to fret over your oil uptime too much, especially since applying them can take a bit of time to do. To be clear, none of these effects will apply to your shield at all. You can purchase sword oils from the shop or from the trader's special items inventory. Affinity oil, which is clearly hot sauce, grants your sword attacks 30% more affinity. Pretty straightforward damage boost. It'll be your staple oil for any situation. It's also available at the start of the game too. Destroyer oil, which is just olive oil, makes you deal more stagger damage, not actual damage, I should clarify. It helps break parts faster to expose potential weak spots, and if you're a speedrunner, can occasionally help you get faster staggers. It also obviously helps if you need certain part break only materials, but outside of these situations it's on the niche side. Stamina oil, which is mouthwash, makes sword attacks deal exhaust damage, making monsters tired more quickly. A not so obvious effect is that it lets you bonk monsters on the head with KO damage, to eventually KO them, which is real good sometimes. The monster's head has to be easily accessible, but applying this oil when you can essentially makes you a miniature hammer or charge blade. Definitely great. Finally, we have Mind's Eye oil, which is peppermint oil, so don't get it in your eyes. This simple oil prevents your attacks from being deflected. Not too useful for this purpose, but for reasons we'll get to much later, is also a staple. That's everything. Let's bring this all together. Sword and Shield is a fast weapon with low commitment times, but a lack of big damage dumps and range. To make the most of S&S, you have to be on the monster 24/7 and make use of your high mobility to get in, land some hits, and get out scot-free. S&S is also solid defensively and utility-wise, given both your shield for emergency guarding and the ability to use items directly from an unsheathed state. Sword oils only help with S&S's well-rounded nature, giving it access to bits of utility that no other weapons have all at once. Let's get into, well, there's really only one big combo you need to know. This might be a bit complicated, so stay with me. Start with Rush Slash if you need to gap close, and only if you need to do so. Doing this from point blank might make you slip off of where you want to hit. Then, up slash with X. If instead you don't need to gap close, perform an up slash from idle by pressing R and X, which is also an up slash. Either way, once you've done an up slash, press X again for down slash, then side slash. Make sure you don't mash here, otherwise you'll go into a shield combo, which is bad, remember? After side slash, press A for a strong side slash. Do one of two things here depending on your window. Either let yourself return to idle, then loop back into up slash with R and X, or press A again for the strong up slash, and again for the round slash, ending your combo. If you're looking to get into more advanced S&S play, then the amount of optimizations you can do with your basic combo can make your head spin. But this is all you need to know. If you whiff your attacks, or if a window is about to close, stop on the spot, and take a moment to reorient yourself instead of continuing your combo and potentially whiffing the rest of it. Sometimes you may also run into monsters with weak spots just out of reach, like say Devil Joe's chest. In these cases, you just want to go with your X-based combo. Up slash, down slash, side slash, then cut the combo short and loop into up slash again. But other times you'll just have to cut your losses and attack things like the legs to try and get trips. You are playing S&S after all. You're basically swinging around a toothpick. Now for a few cool things about Sword and Shield. Did you know that sword-based attacks have a small sharpness modifier of 6%? It's minor, but it's still a small damage boost, and occasionally helps you not bounce off of certain monsters' hard spots, the most prominent example being Silver Aphilos' head with white sharpness. As S&S, only you will not bounce. Other weapons either have to have sharpness modifiers themselves, or just have purple sharpness. Fun side fact, back in Monster Hunter Freedom, this sharpness modifier was a chunky 50%. And you think GU has questionable balance decisions. After most of your lunging attacks, and after rolls, you can slightly change your facing direction before attacking by pressing on the C stick in the direction you want to. This can help slightly if you're just barely slipping off the monster when you're attacking. Don't underestimate it. The super armor you get from Rush Slash is useful when you're attacking, but did you know that it lasts for a fixed duration after Rush Slash? Like this, you can perform a Rush Slash to use an item with super armor, occasionally handy if you need to heal or toss a flash bomb in a pinch. Let's talk about the rest of Sword and Shield styles, starting with Striker style. Striker removes the backstep, and that's it. It also grants super armor while using items unsheathed all the time, but that's more of a side benefit. Quickly moving on to Aerial style. Aerial style loses the strong side and strong up slashes, your A button attacks. Therefore, you always perform the shitty shield bash and thrust attacks when you press A. Oof. In exchange, whenever you boost jump, you automatically perform Rising Jump Slash, and Rising Jump Slash is slightly powered up, whether or not you boost jump to perform it. Continuing on to Adept style. Adept style loses the same things as Aerial style. You can't perform the strong side slash and strong up slash from idle, being forced to use the shield bash and thrust when you press A. Furthermore, you cannot charge your charged slash, always making you perform rush slash from a backstep, unless you cancel it. After an adept dodge, you can press X to perform an adept rising combo, combining both rising and jump slashes in one action. You can also press X and A instead to perform an adept leaping combo, combining leaping and jump slash instead. Pretty straightforward. Use adept rising combo if you don't need gap closing, or adept leaping combo if you do. There's also a third, unique way to trigger an adept dodge. If you perform a backstep to dodge, this can trigger an adept dodge, which will, unlike other adept dodges, will not let you reposition and automatically lead into an adept backstep counter. Difficult to use for sure, but if you can land it, it packs a punch. After any post-adept dodge attack, you can press X to perform the strong side slash, and press X again to perform the strong up slash. Now onto Valor style. In either state, you cannot perform backstep at all, and round slash cannot be performed with X and A. During a Valor sheath, you can press X to perform a Valor lunging combo, which is similar to a charge slash but with a follow-up up slash afterwards. With A, you perform a Valor round slash. Outside of Valor state, you cannot perform a round slash with its special attack button, instead performing the strong side slash. You also cannot do up slashes after a roll, which will throw you off more than you expect. In Valor state, you regain normal round slashes by using the special attack button, and furthermore, you gain access to the Valor backflip, performed at any time mid-combo with X and A. The Valor backflip can link into several actions, so try to keep up. Not pressing anything after a backflip will make you rush forward back in the direction you came from and perform an uppercut, similar to the adept backstep counter. From this state, you can either press X to go back into your standard bread and butter combo, or press X and A to perform another Valor lunging combo, which is like the attack from Valor Sheath, but this variant is weaker. Pressing A after a full Valor backflip will instead perform a special Valor double round slash. Unfortunately, this attack doesn't link into anything, so oof. You can also press X or A after the first part of the Valor backflip to stop an attack early, or even roll out of it if you need to. The special part about Valor backflip is that you can press in any direction to start it up to move in that direction. Same also goes for the follow-up attack, meaning you can cover quite the distance with it. Interrupting your Valor backflip with X midway through, you can also face in any direction by pressing on the C stick. It's also not as obvious, but the Valor backflip, like the charge slash, grants iframes as you perform it, though it's still not a bunch. The Valor backflip grants you a lot of mobility that can easily be weaved in mid-combo, but is also prone to throwing you out of position if you use it recklessly. Because you commit to moving all that distance, the backflip doesn't work for combo extension unless you're trying to chase a moving monster, and even then, you'll have to be on your game to zoom your butt over to the monster's weak spot and not right into a Rajang beam. If you're creative, you'll probably get a lot of mileage out of the Valor backflip. Charging the Valor gauge on Sword and Shield can be awkward. The attacks that charge your Valor gauge faster are difficult to use when considering the Valor Sheath startup, so it's often more reliable to just use your standard bread and butter combos and go into Valor state without Valor sheathing too often, kinda like Insect Glaive. However, if you can manage to fit them in, replacing a Rush Slash with a Valor lunging combo, or a few attacks at the end of a combo with a Valor round slash, can help you charge the Valor gauge. Once in Valor state, there aren't really many different combos you can do. You can replace the end of a combo with a Valor backflip into Valor double round slashes, but be aware that you might not reach the monster with the double round slashes unless you do something creative. In general, you can try to sprinkle in the Valor backflip in more places to achieve greater mobility and combo extension. Let's go over Alchemy style now. Alchemy style prevents you from using round slash mid combo with X and A. You can still perform it from idle with the special attack button. The backstep is entirely removed, while the shield combo, strong upslash, and shield thrust are all replaced with a round slash. Unlike all other Alchemy styles, you cannot immediately bring out the Alchemy barrel after a roll, probably because you can already use the Alchemy barrel while unsheathed anyway. The round slash charges the Alchemy gauge more quickly. Time for some style analysis. Because of SNS's fantastic hunt arts, which we'll get to shortly, the effectiveness of styles are linked to how many slots you have. Therefore, Striker's up first. Striker's loss for the charge slash isn't too much of a deal, given how awkward it can be to fit in at times, and in exchange for this, it gains another Hunter Art slot and passive Hunter Art charge rate. These are enough to push Striker to the forefront. I don't know what to tell you. Monhun's credo is that if it looks cool, it's probably bad. Next up, Alchemy. Alchemy doesn't have the same Hunter Art charge rate boost that Striker has, but the round slash being forced to the end of combos is mostly whatever, minus the loss of a strong upslash, which is a mild bummer. At least you can't use the terrible shield combo or shield thrust attacks, and you get a smidge of utility with the Alchemy barrel items and SB mode. Overall, mostly overshadowed by Striker, but does just as well in the greater context of SNS. Guild's a step down from Alchemy and Striker. The biggest impact is only getting 2 Hunter Art slots in exchange for the kinda useless charge slash. Not exactly a worthwhile trade, but at least you're not limited to 1 Hunter Art slot, unlike the rest of the styles. The 1 Hunter Art slot styles are all rough for similar reasons. The gimmicks they get don't outweigh the loss of the Hunter Art slots. Valor's backflips are fun, and a nice change of pace from the more restrictive dodging old-school Monster Hunter, but they're too easy to be used incorrectly, and aren't better than just standing still and resetting your combo, unfortunately. Who made the decision to have the Valor double round slashes to be generally weak and a combo ender, huh? To give Valor SNS the faintest bit of credit, the backflips do have a lot of potential, but this potential doesn't exactly align with how Monhun is supposed to be played, and is limited by it only having 1 Hunter Art slot. It's probably better than Adept and Aerial, but only just. Adept and Aerial are easy to confuse, given that they do incredibly similar things. Funnily enough, Adept SNS is better at the mounting game, given that you aren't saddled with the aerial hop and can be flexible with your post-Adept dodge attack. Additional bonus points for the cool factor of the Adept backstep counter, no matter how kinda awkward it can be to use. Aerial SNS, by contrast, isn't as terrible as other aerial styles tend to be, since you still retain the rush slash instead of losing your gap closer attack, as other styles are wont to do. The rising jump slash being performed automatically on the boost jump is also nice, as well as it being more powerful than normal. Not unusable, but still kinda to use when considering something like Striker. So, since Sword and Shield Hunter Arts are cool as heck, let's start talking about them now. Sword Dance is a fancy schmancy combo attack. Unlike your more basic attacks, Sword Dance has a greater sweeping range, so you'll land the attacks more consistently. Increasing ranks adds more attacks to the combo. Round Force is basically spin to win. You attack in an area around yourself, whilst giving yourself invulnerability, which lasts for the whole attack, pretty much. Increasing ranks adds more hits to the attack, and Rank 2 attacks a larger area around yourself. Rank 3 also lifts your allies into the air. I'm warning you now, never, ever use Rank 3 in a multiplayer hub. You might think that you're helping people by doing this, you're wrong. People don't appreciate their combos being interrupted, so using Round Force 3 in a multiplayer hub gives other people carte blanche to kick you. I'm dead serious. Never use Rank 3 in multiplayer. Solo, it's fine. Shoryugeki begins with a lunging slash, then performs an uppercut into the air with your shield, dealing a bunch of KO and exhaust damage as you do so. Increasing ranks adds more hits to the shield combo. The last set of rank 3 also does mounting damage. Chaos Oil lunges forward, then slashes laterally, while applying a fiery purple oil to your sword. This oil, which is definitely kerosene, applies the effects of all oils simultaneously. What's more, you can apply any oil in one sweep rather than the 3 you would have to do normally. Applying an oil like this, which I would call overlaying because Yu-Gi-Oh, does not apply the full effects. Get ready for some numbers in the bottom right. Basically, Chaos Oil ranks 1 and 2 apply a weaker effect of the original oils, while rank 3 has their full effects at the cost of a decreased duration. When you overlay an oil with Chaos Oil active, or even have its effects active as you use Chaos Oil, ranks 1 and 2 restore the full effect of the oil. Mind's Eye Oil instead restores 100 sharpness. Rank 3 instead doubles the effect of Affinity and Destroyer oils, while Stamina Oil only goes up to around 150% of normal. Mind's Eye Oil restores slightly more sharpness, to 120 units from 100. Time for some analysis. SNS arts are generally fantastic. Chaos Oil is a prime example of this. While it doesn't provide humongo bungo damage or anything, the massive amount of utility rivals that of Ripper Shield from Charge Blade. More damage from Affinity, easier part breaking, fast and free sharpenings from Mind's Eye Oil, and most importantly, boosted KO damage are all great. Contrary to popular belief, you want to overlay Stamina Oil on top here, as the baseline 30% affinity is already high enough, and faster KOs means more openings. Still, Chaos Oil might not have the greatest uptime, and the charge time can be in the slower end, but it is still extraordinary. Now, if you're wondering where Chaos Oil 3 is, let's just say it'll be a tragedy in silver and gold when you find out. This quest is the #1 rando killer in the game, folks. Have fun! Round Force is up next. It's a straightforward art that combines utility and damage in one package, and it charges up quickly as well. You want to spam this art, since a massive 70% damage is great on a fast charging art like this, so try to find moments where you can use iframes as well for twice the effectiveness. Shoryugeki used to be the main offensive art in Generations before Chaos Oil was introduced. The damage, while it is substantial, is more of a side benefit. This art's high KO damage can easily land some KOs, assuming you'll land the darn thing. Make sure that the initial lunge doesn't throw you off of the head, so if you're already near a monster's head, back off a little bit, then use Shoryugeki. Sword Dance is the weakest out of SNS Hunter arts. It falls victim to the classic offensive Hunter art mistake of being a brick a lot of time, because of the window you need to use it. It is decent at repeatedly attacking hard parts, applying elemental damage, or repeatedly adding KO to the monster while Stamina Oil is up, but these benefits aren't good enough to outpace the utility of the other Hunter arts. It's technically not a DPS loss if you can land all the hits, but that's somewhat optimistic. If you still insist on using it, I'd recommend sometimes lowering the rank you use to land this art in smaller windows without getting punished. Alright, it's progression time. If you're in a rush, the standard Petrified, Obsidian, and Elder lines will do you good on the weapon side. On the armor side, Buja, Rathalos Mix, high rank Rathalos Mix, then Sena Cross is the most straightforward line. Now for depth progression. Village 1 starts with the familiar Petrified Sword. You then move on to Ludrop Snail, crafted from Bone Crease level 2 for Village 2, your earliest good starting point for green sharpness. Ludrop can be found at Misty Peaks, so go interact with Yukumo Village. Also grab Bujabu for attack of L. Village 3 grants green sharpness to the Petrified Sword, so it's a nice generic option. You also gain access to some elemental options starting in this rank, so if you feel the need to, here they are. Secna Nulo R, upgraded from Secna Nulo level 2 for fire, Royal Claw, upgraded from that Ludrop Snail for water, Gypceros' Thunderbane, upgraded from the Bone Pick for, well, thunder, and Frost Edge from the Petrified Sword level 3 for ice. FYI, you'll likely want a couple of copies of the Petrified Sword for some other weapons too. Village 4's raw damage option is the Hunter's Knife level 5. If you don't feel like getting the Hunter's Knife from scratch up to level 5, there's also Nargacuga's Hidden Edge, which is from Petrified Sword level 4. For your elemental options, there's Secta Nulo R getting an upgrade, Daimyo Hermitor and Shogun Senator's dual carapace, which upgrades from Hunter's Dagger level 2, which itself comes from Hunter's Knife level 3. Also with Shogun Senator, you can consider his armor set if you want early access to Razor Sharp, which is really nice for Sword and Shield. There's also the Frost Edge for ice. In Village 5, you gain access to the Fated Four, whose weapons are all generally good for their respective element. Speaking of which, your raw damage option is going to be Gamut's Giant's Tusk, whose negative affinity can be fixed with Affinity Oil if you're worried about that. For more pure ice matchups, there's the Giapre's Snake Bite, which upgrades from Serpent's Bite. Since Claveness isn't available yet, your fire option can be Rathalos' Jin. Speaking of which, Rathalos' armor set and mix set are recommended at this point for its weakness exploit. Village 6 continues the Fated Four's dominance by granting all of their weapons upgrades, especially with the emergence of Glaveness and his Burning Promenade. If you're looking for a raw option, I recommend Seregios' Knob Sword, whose roll to restore sharpness mechanic may not be as effective on Sword and Shield, but is still worth considering for the jump from low to high rank. Also, grab Absolute Readiness from Hub 3-star Wyvern Sandrunners. It's great, and there's practically no reason to not run it. Into high rank we go with Village 7. The Obsidian Sword, upgraded from the Petrified Sword, starts to get good around this point with its access to blue sharpness. If you're progressing Village at this point, you should also unlock Chaos Oil 1 as well, greatly easing your sharpness upkeep with Mind's Eye Oil. All of the Fated 4 weapons also gain upgrades at this point with easy to get materials, so to recommend it if you're looking for elemental options. For an anti-Nebelsnarf weapon, the Frost Edge comes back with a smidge of blue sharpness. Village 8 grants upgrades to the Obsidian Sword, and if you're interested, the Knob Sword. The Knob Sword's increased blue sharpness, combined with the roll to sharpen mechanic, can seriously help maintain blue. But the Obsidian Sword's higher attack can edge it out if you can maintain the blue sharpness there. Unfortunately, on the elemental side, the Fated 4 do not get upgrades in this rank, so I recommend Jin, Dual Carapace, Thunderbane, and Snakebite as upgrades here. On the armor side, Satyr S can be worth considering if you're looking for a modern upgrade. Village 9 doesn't immediately grant an upgrade to any raw SNS users, but if you do Hyper Monsters in Hub 6, the Obsidian Sword gains an upgrade of Hyper Hunter 1 tickets. Outside of that, 3 out of the 4 Fated 4 weapons are worth upgrades. Glavenus' Burning Promenade, Mizutsune's Hana no Nagoriwo, and Astalos' Verdant Rapier. Your ice option will be Barrios' Icicle Spike. And don't forget Rapalos' armor set and mix set at this point. Highly recommended. Village 10 itself doesn't offer any direct upgrades. I should stress that these upcoming upgrades are optional, but doing hyper monsters that unlock after high rank Nakarkus and Hub grants access to Blazing Falchion, Kurenaui Ugi, Kezu's Painful Razor, which upgrades from Soldier's Stagger level 2, and High Frost Edge. They're worth considering if you're gonna complete high rank before moving on to G rank. If this is the case, then your Deviant weapons will be Hellblade's Magma Hellblade for Huntathons, Dread King's Dread King Edge for Fire, and Thunderlord Crookbolt for Thunder. For Dragon Weak monsters, I suggest Valstrax's Dragonstar Alcor as well. On the armor side, consider Silver Raphalos' Silver Soul set, or Hyasol for village completionists. Into G rank we go with the Elder Sword, a classic recommendation. The thin white sharpness can be unpalatable, in which case I'd go with the Discovery Sword for better sharpness upkeep. 2 elemental options are here if you want them, the Dual Scissors and a High Frost Edge. In G2, your largest upgrade will be Satyr Cross on the armor side, while on the weapon side you have Sage Sword with a longer length of white sharpness. Elemental options include the Blazing Falchion, Dual Scissors, Painful Razor, and Dragonstar Alcor, the last of which I highly recommend for Lao Shan Lung, along with a specialized Lao set. G3 starts the trend of going purely elemental, while conveniently with Fated 4 weapons, and Barrios and Ardabash. Sorry Gameth. If you're looking for an armor upgrade in G3, Raphalos and his mix set exist here as well. In G4, the Glinting Glavenus and Kurenaui Ugi gain upgrades, as does the Permafrost Edge. Kezu's Painful Razor, which gets its final upgrade to Dread Razor thanks to Hyper Kezu parts, is recommended for fighting Al-Ka. Busting right on through to endgame, let's talk about ideal armor skills and weapon qualities. We should talk about weapon qualities first, since the context is necessary to understand armor skills. Deviant Boost is a high priority, so much so that it kinda eclipses everything else. Why? The Hunter Arts, obviously. Increased uptime of round force and absolute readiness means more uptime to smack the monster, instead of smacking that whetstone on your weapon. Because SNS favors Deviant Boost, Deviant weapons will have an easier time maintaining sharpness. 20 units of sharpness with Razor Sharp is on the more costly end. Double that to 40 units if you drop Razor Sharp. For weapons without Deviant Boost, 30 to 40 units with Razor Sharp is recommended. To reiterate, you'll have to consider adding more sharpness skills or having longer sharpness lengths if you do not carry Absolute Readiness or Chaos Oil, which will affect one-slot styles disproportionately. If you're wondering how to read sharpness lengths, Kiriniko, which is a great Monhun database, has sharpness lengths displayed. All you need to do is use Inspect Element and check the pixels. The left number you see is the length of sharpness. So for Firewall's Edge here, it has 10 pixels of white sharpness at base. 1 pixel is equivalent to 5 units of sharpness, so Firewall's Edge has 50 units of white sharpness to work with. There's a bit more about sharpness to talk about, but I'll save that for armor skills. Outside of sharpness, there are a few other things to consider. Element is also priority, since you'll be hitting with low damage attacks, so Element helps patch up your damage on that front. Great elemental values start from about 35 and up. Your attack is still a consideration, however. Around 300 attack is fine, but with higher elemental values, you can afford to go even lower. Make sure you're in an appropriate matchup first though. I wouldn't ditch too much attack on the monsters such as Zinogre, for example. Now for armor skills. Thanks to the advent of Chaos Oil and Mind's Eye Oil with Absolute Readiness, SNS isn't as reliant on Razor Sharp as it was in previous games. Of course, this does assume that you're using both an SNS with long enough sharpness in the first place, and obviously, the Hunter Arts. If you're not, you'll have to adjust, most likely by slapping on Razor Sharp onto your SNS sets. Also remember that you do have a limited quantity of Mind's Eye Oil. If you think a run is going to last long, then you'll have to start relying on normal whetstones like the rest of the weapons. Lastly, the choice to use Sharpness plus 1 or 2 will depend on whether or not you get enough of the next grade of Sharpness to make it worth it, as well as how much damage you'll gain or lose by opting to swap out Sharpness plus skills for different damage boosts. Purple Sharpness is generally worth it, but if it doesn't have at least 40 units of it and it's not a deviant weapon, it may be worth looking at different skills. Experiment around and see what works best for you. Just a bit more to talk about. SNS does benefit more from the typical element skills than most other weapons, aside from dual blades, so armor skills such as Elemental Crit and Fire Attack plus 2 can help tune up your elemental damage. Go for Elemental Crit first, since it provides a chunky plus 35% element bonus on crit, then for your respective element attack plus 2. That said, the majority of your damage is still raw focused, so going with the typical crit boosting armor skills is still a great option. Just don't overcap your affinity, since with Chaos Oil or Affinity Oil up, you'll have 30% more affinity throughout the majority of the hunt. In this case, you should probably distribute your armor skills to element. Again, this is assuming you're using Chaos Oil. If you're not, for whatever reason, ditch the element skills in favor of affinity boosting ones to patch up your crit rate. Now for the endgame recommendations. Since a bunch of monsters in this game are weak to Thunder, the Thunderlord Skybolt from Thunderlord Zinogre will be the quote-unquote generalist choice. A good 300 attack and standout 45 Thunder makes it a formidable force. Unfortunately, the purple sharpness is a bit on the shorter side, so ditching sharpness skills is the play here. I won't mention this from now on, but obviously slap on more sharpness skills if you're playing without Absolute Readiness or Chaos Oil. The main non-deviant alternative is, funnily enough, Base Zinogre's Oppressor's Bounty. It trades a bit of Thunder for more attack power and slots. Sharpness plus 2 and Razor Sharp are recommended here due to the lack of deviant boost. The third option is the Keating Bolt Perfectus. It has the lowest attack out of all the SNSs I'll recommend here, but the sky-high 58 Thunder combined with long white sharpness means that it's best applied when you're fighting a monster with difficult or impossible to reach weak spot, but is sensitive to element, such as Savage Deviljho. Thunder is generally good against water monsters, so we'll cover those next. Your main water option is going to be Soulseer Mizutsune's Sanisurao. The lower 30 water is concerning, but the elevated 320 attack and good 20% base affinity means that only having Weakness Exploit and Chaos Oil up means 100% affinity already, so you can devote more armor skills to boosting element. Go with Sharpness plus 2 here. Like Thunderlord, base Mizutsune's SNS, Korinawa Gunpu is a solid non-deviant alternative. It has similar stats to Sanisurao, but has a smidge higher water at 35, while trading in 10 attack, affinity, and deviant boost. Also use Sharpness plus 2 here. Another alternative is Agamemnon. While it has a higher sharpness tax than Korinawa Gunpu, with the addition of Razor Sharp on top of Sharpness plus 2, it gains 20 attack on top, which can fare slightly better in some scenarios. Fire is up next. Your main option will be Dread King Rathalos' Fire Waltz Edge. Sharpness plus 2 is recommended for the long length of purple you get. Other than that, this wins by default, because there aren't other fire deviants. Still, it's a good option with the high 42 fire. The non-deviant alternative is Gold Rathian's Golden Riot. It gains 2 slots and a smidge of fire, while losing the affinity and deviant boost. Ditch all the sharpness skills. You won't get much purple sharpness from going to plus 2 here, so just work with the base white. Now for ice. Addressing the element in the room, it'll be Elderfrost Giant Slalom from Elderfrost Gameth. The low ice element and sharpness is, as always, compensated by the extremely high 380 attack, which aligns with the few ice weak matchups in the game. If you're fighting like a Nibelsnarf or Najarala, The previously mentioned Permafrost Edge will be your choice. Similar sharpness requirements, but has more ice to tell those pesky monsters to freeze. It also works in the aforementioned Zinogre or Rajang matchups as well, if you don't have Elderfrost Gamma yet, or are unwilling to deal with the lower sharpness. Lastly, Dragon. Elatrion's Altheos Zodiarch packs a huge punch of dragon for fights like the Dread Rafts, and along white and purple is the cherry on top. No sharpness skills here. If you need longer lengths of sharpnesses for stuff like EX Deviants or other arena matchups, consider Valstrax's Magnastar Akri. You won't ever run out of white sharpness, probably, but it does lose a considerable amount of element doing so. Before we get into the status options, there are the more general SNSs for Huntathons where the element doesn't line up quite right. In those cases, Hellblade Glaveness's Magma Nova is an option. High blast, naturally good sharpness, solid all around. An easier alternative to get is the Absolute Ruiner Sword from Crimson Fatalis. While Sharpness plus 2 and Razor Sharp are mandatory, it's a decent bridge option to everything else if you don't have anything and are just starting out with SNS. Shoutouts to Kezu's Dreadrazor as a substitute to fight Soul Seer Mizutsune with if you're just getting into the Deviant Blunt rotation. And finally, we have the Run Raw SNS option. Bloodbath Diablos' Cristatu exists. Requires both Razor Sharp and Sharpness plus 2 to be usable against Alka. I'm only mentioning it here because I'm legally obligated to. Moving on. Poison will be Dread Queen Rapierina, from who else but Dread Queen Rathian. At least Sharpness plus 1 recommended here. It wins because of Deviant Boost. Peril will be Gendrome's Death Grip. You'll need Sharpness plus 2 here for the white sharpness length, but it has a good balance of para and attack. Sleep is a bit weird. There are two valid alternatives, Malfestios' Dream Archduke Shura, which has higher sleep and sharpness, but lower attack, or Nightcloak Malfestios' Cloak Demischlaf, which has high attack and Deviant Boost, but lower sharpness and sleep. The choice between these two is mostly personal preference. I'm gonna say it. Sword and Shield is sick as hell in this game. How Capcom stuck so many cool-ass arts in one unassuming package, I'll never figure out. Other weapons just have underwhelming as heck hunter arts, and their base kits are arguably way cooler than the humble Sword and Shield, so SNS getting these cool and effective arts levels the playing field quite a bit. Of course, one could argue that SNS leans a bit too much into hunter arts in this game, especially given the underwhelming nature of the one-slot styles, but I think it's fine. Overall, SNS got some great tools in this game, and while the base kit can feel a smidge underbaked at times, it does a good all-around job throughout all parts of the game. Now, I wish you good luck, a reminder to not drink the sword oils, and I hope that the Deviant grind isn't too much for you. And never use Round Force 3 in multiplayer hubs.